Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming.
I'm excited for this. I think this is great.
I've been wanting to do it for a long time. I've been thinking about it for a long time, so now we're finally doing it.
Today's the day.
Today's the day for it.
Well, we're called natives. We're here in Arizona, and I was born in Arizona, born in Phoenix. That hospital's been tore down a long time ago, but there was my mother and my father and me, and then a sister. That was the extent of our family at the time. I'm the oldest, firstborn. We lived in Phoenix, just rented an old house, 19th Avenue and somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but I even have seen pictures of it, and I remember that house. One of the biggest things I remember, which you can't see it here, but I remember swinging on an old plumbing pipe that was just coming out of the wall, and it was up high enough for a 4-year-old to grab and swing. And on this swing out, my hands came off, and I slammed on the back patio concrete and busted my chin open. So that's a memory I have of that. But no, I was over there for a while, and then my parents bought a house over in Mesa, Alma School Road, between Broadway and 8th Avenue. And it was a brand new subdivision, way outside of town. And had fond memories growing up there.
Was that all dirt roads, or what was?
It was an old concrete road that was made in World War II, and so it was a concrete road that was not very wide, barely wide enough for 2 cars to get by each other. That was Alma School Road, and because it was concrete, Arizona, with the heat, it expanded, contracted, expanded, and so you went down that road, it was just it was just all cracked up concrete and everything. I remember that. All of that area now is, shopping centers and all kinds of houses and everything, but had a lot of fun growing up there. The house is still there. Had a few friends, the Stewarts and the Chisholms, and we were just little guys that school would get out, and we would shave our heads into a mohawk, and we did not wear shirts, socks, shoes, anything, just a pair of shorts. That was it. And in the Arizona heat, that's what we thought we needed to do. And we tried to stay out of trouble. There was more houses being built in the subdivision, and so they would drop the truss package, which is basically a big giant triangle, and of course one end of the triangle sticking up like this, and so we would get on that truss package. They were all bound together, and we would run up to the top, and then all of our weight combined would make that end go down, and this end would come up, so we just, like it was a big giant teeter-totter. And we had a lot of fun doing that. We got some pieces of wood, we made some rifles, and we got some big giant thick rubber bands, and so you would put the rubber band on the end of what was the barrel and pull it back, and we'd cut a notch in it, and we'd have about 2 or 3 rubber bands, notch 1, 2, and 3. No shirts, just shorts. And we would divide up into teams, and if you got caught in the bushes, you could beg all you wanted, and just whap, 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 and they did not feel good. But we had a lot of fun doing that. We used to play kick the can at night. It's basically a hide-go-seek game, but with a can and under the street light. Set up the can in the middle of the street, or kind of off to the side so the cars wouldn't run over it. But there wasn't a whole lot of cars going up and down the streets at night in our neighborhood, and you know, one person would be it, everybody else would go hide, then they would have to go find you, and if they caught you, you were in jail. But if you didn't get all the way to the last person could come and kick the can and everybody would be free and take off. And it was fun if you weren't it, but if you were it, you know, and we would have mercy. If somebody had to go 2 times in a row or whatever, we'd go, okay, you know. But we'd do that, and Arizona, for some reason, thought they needed to go on this daylight savings time thing, and it would be 8:15, 8:30 at night, and it was still daylight.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we had to go to bed at 8:30 or 9, and so, you know, that was hard going to bed, and it's still light outside.
Light outside.
Yeah, the sun was going down, but it was, you know, no air conditioning. Had an old swamp cooler, and so in the summertime it was brutal, especially when the monsoon came. I remember just laying on my bed, on top of the covers, in my BVDs, just sweating, trying to go to sleep. So, anyway, didn't have to walk 10 miles in the school uphill, but it was hot.
Yeah.
And it was, but I had a lot of fond memories there.
Awesome.
You know, in that, till I was about 10 years old.
What about school? When you think about growing up in school, what kind of student were you? Did you like school? Did you not like school?
School was okay. I didn't have this drive to excel or, you know, or whatever. First grade was kind of in town, Alma School, on Alma School Road. It was just south of Main Street on Alma School Road. That's where I went to first grade. Had a bunch of olive trees out on the playground, and there were wasp nests up there, so we'd get rocks and throw them at the wasp nests, and you know, that's when I got stung for the first time, and I got stung more than once after that. But
Were the railroad tracks there then?
oh yeah, you'd go over the railroad tracks, and in fact, that school was just on the other side of the railroad tracks, and you'd drop over the railroad tracks and turn right there and go into school. And funny, I can't remember I don't remember riding a bus. I don't remember if my mom took us down there or what, but, and then in our neighborhood, they were building a school, and they built Adams School, and so I went to Adams School from there, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th, 5th. Later on in life, I wasn't excited about school.
You're talking like high school, junior high, high school, or?
Yeah, well, so when I was 10, we moved. We moved to Tempe, and it was a nicer home, bigger home. I think it even had air conditioning, but we weren't there very long because one Sunday afternoon, our parents sat us down and told us they were getting a divorce. That was a tough deal. I was 10, and you know, I've talked to people that went through that at those ages, and it was interesting. I felt like it was my fault. You know, here I am, a little 10-year-old boy, and all I could think about was all the times that I was slow to obey, and you know, my parents had to tell me more than once to do something or whatever, and it would, you know, I thought it was my fault. And there was no counseling back in those days to say, hey, look, you know, it's not your fault, whatever. So I carried that burden for a long time. But so then we moved a lot. I moved every year. Every year I went to a different school. My sister and I lived predominantly with our mother. And so every year we'd go to a different school. Tempe, Scottsdale, ultimately ended up in Maryville. It was hard to make friends because, you know, they're temporary.
Right.
You know.
You didn't know how long you were going to be there.
Yeah, and our mom did the best she could. We did get to see our dad on weekends, But yeah, that was a tough deal. And then mother remarried to a guy named Roger, and they ended up having a little boy. And so here I am 13 now, and my sister and I were getting a little brother, and we were really excited about that, and couldn't wait to get home from school to play with him, and didn't like it when he threw up on us, but you know, it was a good time. And then they were going to move to California. I did not want to move to California. Friends, friends had already been going to parties starting when I was 12. Before we even moved to Maryville, when I was 12, I got invited to a party, and I knew what was going to be going on at that party, and I just said, yeah, I'm going to pass. And most of my friends smoked pot for the first time at that party, and so I just thought, if I move to California, who knows where I'm going to end up? Who
Right.
knows what trouble I'm going to get into or whatever.
And at this time, you're 13.
13. Well, they were
14.
when they were moving. I was 14.
And so I think back when I was 14, or I think of, some of my kids are around that age. I don't know if, had I been in the same situation, I would have been thinking the same thing of, if I moved to California, who knows what's going to happen. I might get in more trouble. I might whatever. So, I mean, I guess to me that's impressive, thinking as a 14-year-old kid, thinking about what kind of decisions you're making, how that's going to affect your life, how that could affect things, and that it wasn't just, I have a lot of really good friends here, so I don't want to move, which would be like the typical type of a thing. Maybe that was part of it, but I think it's interesting you saying you had those thoughts of, I don't want to go, because not only there's already this party scene, maybe you had this vision of California. Who knows? Is it worse there? Is it different? Who knows what's going to happen?
I knew it was
there?
going to be worse there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me.
And maybe only a matter of time. I believe in God, and I believe, as I look back at my life, I see the hand of God in my life, and I think that was one of those moments when I just had thoughts and impressions that, that's probably not a good idea. And so ended up moving to Mesa.
Did they move to California?
They moved to California.
And you stayed?
My sister and I actually stayed, and our dad had remarried.
Okay.
And so he had remarried, and there was two stepsisters and a stepbrother.
So you moved in with your dad?
Moved in with our dad
In Mesa.
In Mesa.
Okay.
Yeah. And interesting enough, I'm 14, and my stepbrother was 16, and my name is Terry, and his name was Terry. And so it became Big Terry and Little Terry, which was fine. I was just this skinny
Big T
kid,
and Little T.
And we had lots of adventures together, and it was nice. He didn't treat me as the little brother that was pestering him and trying to, although I did pester him, he would let me tag along on certain things.
Yeah.
He had a motorcycle, and I'd jump on the back of it, and we would ride to Saguaro Lake, and it was all dirt road. All that's been paid for years, but it was all dirt road, and all those curves and everything, and he'd go
On dirt
road on that motorcycle. I would just be hanging on for dear life, hoping we don't crash. Please, I can't.
Were you guys
crash.
wearing helmets at least?
Oh no.
No helmets?
No. In shorts.
You remember what kind of motorcycle it was?
I think it was a Honda of some kind, and it was
More like a dirt bike type thing, more
No.
like a road bike?
No, more like a road bike. And we would have I don't think I can't remember if I think we brought water, but I don't know if we brought anything to eat. But we brought a spear gun and a mask, you know, and we would go there and on the, when you enter that lake, you can walk to the left and there's a trail that goes down the left and it goes back into some cliffs. And we would hike back in there. It's probably, for a 14-year-old, it felt like it was at least a mile.
Yeah.
And maybe it is. Maybe it's about a mile or, but those cliffs were high. And we would cliff jump. And I don't know that we ever measured them. I think that I've been told, and you may know this, I don't know, you may know this. Have you been to those cliffs?
Yeah. Yeah, so we did some...
What would you say is the
some team
highest
training. But it depends on the water level and all that stuff at the time. So when we jumped off of them, the highest one, that it was the highest, you know, safest, like kind of flat that you could jump from, I want to say it was like 50 feet.
Yeah.
So depending on water level.
Well, the ones that we would go off were on an angle.
Would kind of go down, but I'm just saying flat-ish, right? It's not
Yeah.
like you were on the side
Right.
of a cliff, but it was
Yeah.
kind of flat and rocks would kind of go off to the edge.
Well, I can't remember if one of his friends measured them or not, or if they did that, but 60, 65
Yeah.
feet.
And again, water level and all
Right.
that stuff.
And so here I am, 14 years old. You had to wear shoes to go off, and you better make sure your arms are next to your side because they'll rip them right off. It felt like you were hitting concrete. But 14 years old, I went up there and, you know, call it ignorance or call it... I remember there were these girls
Yeah,
there.
trying to impress somebody.
Yeah,
or-
exactly. There's some girls there and they're 16 and 17 and their boyfriends are there, you know, and they're there to have some fun at the lake, and you'd see this skinny kid climb up all the way to the top and jump off, and their boyfriends would not even think about it. And so, you know, my
Would you just
14
jump, or were you doing...
Oh no, I
flips
no,
and
I just
stuff?
jump. That's all I would do. I would just jump and make sure my hands were to my side. But right there where those cliffs are, there was a rock, a big rock that was under the water, and you could see it from up on the cliff. You could see the rock. And it went down pretty deep. The water was very deep there. And so my brother, with his spear gun and his mask, he would dive down and swim around that rock, and there would be a big old school of bass, and he would just shoot bass, and we would, sorry to say, it wasn't with a fishing pole, it was with
Yeah.
a spear gun. I'm pretty sure that wasn't legal,
Yeah.
but
Remember what you would do with the fish? Would you guys
Oh,
take
yeah.
them home?
No, yeah, we
Or
took
there
them.
at the lake, do stuff with them?
we
or-
took them home and we'd eat them, and
Awesome.
so, but yeah, had some great memories there.
So 14, 15, moving with your dad. So at that point, did you settle into a school where, like all through high school, you went to one school?
So I ended up at Mesa Junior High.
Okay.
I was,
Is that like 7th, 8th, 9th?
well,
Or
I
7th
was
and
in
8th, or-
8th grade. Mesa Junior High, and got with the wrong crowd, and they weren't terrible boys, but you know, when you're that age and you're the new kid, you just, whoever pays attention to you is who you gravitate to. And
Sure.
I have a memory that I have actually told the Lord that I've tried to tell the Lord I feel really bad about doing that, and I guess receive forgiveness for it. There was a special needs girl there. Her name was Gail. I don't remember her last name, but it was so unfortunate because kids are very brutal today. It's called bullying now, but they were not very nice back then. And I ended up being in this group that would tease this girl Gail, she had a disability where it was hard for her to walk, and she was overweight, and we'd call out her name in some obnoxious tone of voice or whatever, and I'm embarrassed to even think that I got caught up in that. And if I could ever know where she was, I would not hesitate a second to go apologize to her. But yeah, that was not a good time, not an easy time in school, trying to make friends, and thought that would be some stability. Ended up moving there in the middle of the school year, but that was the only year I spent there. Next was high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. By then, I really didn't like school. I just didn't care for it. I didn't realize, I didn't think, well, why do I need school? I wasn't as forward thinking then. But so a good friend of mine, his parents were starting a private school where they were going to provide a building, and you could, and the curriculum was ordered, and they sent it to you, and so you basically could go follow a curriculum and do it at your own pace, and you could either be slow or you could be fast or whatever. Well, my dad and mom didn't have any money for that. So I was motivated enough by my dislike for school that I thought, well, I'll go get a job and I'll pay the tuition myself.
With the idea being
Graduating in 2 years instead of 4.
doing it fast.
Yes.
Yeah, and being done with school.
And being done with school. And so...
Some would say that's very forward thinking.
Well, yeah, but
in your mind, it was just, I got to be done with
I
school.
got to get out of here. I got to get out of school. I don't care for it. I don't... Anyway, so I went and got a job at a steakhouse. And I needed transportation to that job because I didn't really have anything. And it was... Well, we were at Alma School Road and... Well, no, by then, I can't remember if we had moved. I think we had moved back. And we were at Alma School Road, kind of right across from that subdivision that my early memories were of, at a house over there. And so I would ride all the way down to University, which is, I don't know, is that 2 miles?
From like the 8th Ave area?
Yeah, from 8th Avenue to University.
2.5 miles.
2.5 miles, one way. Alma School Road down in that section was still narrow, and big old giant ditches on the side, and came out to University Drive, and there was a steakhouse over there in the Sherwood Shopping Center area. And so I washed dishes, and for $1 an hour. In my spare time, I had to bake the potatoes. I had to tenderize the steaks. I had to make the strawberry pies.
How did you tenderize the steaks?
I think there was some kind of thing that you would stab into them or whatever, and I think there was some kind of sauce or something, if I remember right.
But you're like pounding them with some tool.
Yeah, and it has needles on it, and you're kind of stabbing
the
it.
Marinade or whatever can get into the meat.
Yeah, right, something like that. But wash the dishes, tenderize the steaks. They were on big platters with plastic over them, and they were stacked on top of each other. And then...
How old are you at this point? 16?
15. I'm 15 years old. And make the strawberry pies, make the salads. We had literally a big giant Rubbermaid garbage can that you would cut all the lettuce up and the other stuff and throw it in there and mix it, and then you would just scoop up the salad bowls out of there, and then if I still had time left, I had to go bus tables or whatever to keep busy, sweep the sweep the floor. You just had to always be doing something. So $1 an hour, and I would get off work. It would close at 9 o'clock at night, so I'd get off work at 9.
When did you start work?
Well, it would have to be after school, so I would work from 5 to 9, get out of there by 9:15, and ride home, and of course riding home 2.5 miles at 9:15 at night. I think, I'm gonna guess I'd got home around 9:45 to something like that.
Yeah.
Took me 30 minutes maybe.
So you'd get home from work. Were you doing that every day, 5 days a week, only on the weekends?
I was getting about 20 hours a week, 20 to 24 hours a week.
So you were making less than $25 a week.
Yeah, and school tuition was $60, $65
A week or a month?
a month.
A month.
A month.
So in a little over
19,
2.5 weeks, you could have tuition.
yeah. Yeah.
And then you'd have a little bit each month.
A little bit
left over.
Right, to buy clothes with, because I had to buy my own clothes.
Yeah.
And then I got a job, a grocery store named Smitty's opened up, and I got a job there bagging groceries, and I got a huge raise, $1.10. That 10 cents, I thought, man, all the things I can do with that. And
So you're 15, 16?
now I'm 16.
So the year then is
1972.
1972. You're 16.
Well, actually, so the first part of 72, I'm 16. I'm
15.
15, and then April's when my
Turning
birthday
16.
is, and I turned 16. I think I got that job in the summer, like June or something.
Okay.
And school-wise, I had progressed enough in the program that I was going to be graduating that next year. And so I was going to be graduating in 3 years instead of 4. I was 16 my whole senior year,
Gotcha.
except my birthday was in April,
So the
and I
last
graduated in May.
Right. So last month.
So
or
the last 30 days, I was 17. But yeah, I worked at that grocery store, bagging groceries. They wouldn't let me become a stalker because the stalkers were also trained to be a cashier, and they just didn't want to just have just a stalker. They wanted a guy that if it got busy, they needed to have a guy that they could call and come up there and cashier.
Were they saying you weren't old enough to be a cashier? Or?
Well, so that was just what they wanted. They didn't want just to have a stalker. They wanted him to be able to stalk and cashier both.
Gotcha.
Now, at 16, there wasn't. You still had to be 18 to even run a register and what is it called? Ring up liquor.
Sell
Sell liquor,
items.
whatever. And so
That was the limiting factor there.
that was one of the limiting factors
Yeah.
right there. And if somebody happened to be younger, 17 or whatever, another cashier would have to come over and ring it up. I mean, that's just what they did in those days.
Yeah.
For beer or alcohol or whatever. So back in those days too, soda came in a bottle. And so they wanted to recycle the bottles. So people would bring to the grocery store all their soda bottles. And they would put them in a grocery basket. And that grocery basket would be taken to the back room. And then somebody had to take those baskets of bottles and go into what's called the bottle room, which was basically just a chain link cage, chain link ceiling, chain link walls, in the hot sun, no roof over it, and put all the Dr. Pepper bottles over into the Dr. Pepper section, and Pepsi and Coke and so on. And I got a promotion to be the bottle boy. Now I'm making $1.25 an hour, and thought I'd just died and gone to heaven. Anyway, I had saved up enough money during the summer to buy my first vehicle. And it was a 55 Ford truck with a Chevy 283 with a 2-speed Power Glide transmission. And the gas gauge didn't work. But I would go to the gas station and gas was 26 cents a gallon, and I would put $1 or $2 worth in and knew I was good for a while.
Yeah.
I think the most I ever put in that truck was $5 worth of gas. And
I mean, that's 17, 18 gallons right there.
it was probably all that truck held. Anyway, yeah.
Working at Smitty's. You graduated.
I graduated from high school. I just turned 17, and by then I had decided I was going to be a general contractor. And so what did I need to know about math? That's how naive and ignorant. What did I need to know about math? What did I need to know about English? You know, I just had the worst attitude about all that stuff, and barely graduated. Literally, and there was...
Even though you graduated a year early.
Even though I graduated a year early, yeah. There were 11 of us in our graduating class. And actually, this year was 50 years ago.
50 years.
That I graduated from high school. Yeah.
Graduated high school.
Boy, has that gone by fast.
Didn't like school, so you came up with a plan to pay your own way to graduate early. You graduated a year early. From there, graduate high school. You're working. You stay at Smitty's.
No, I'm going to get into construction because I was going to be a general contractor. So I got a job as a gopher on a framing crew and had to hand them all the 2x4s and help put the sheets of plywood, you know, up on the roof and get all the clips that went in between the sheets of plywood to create a little gap and just, you know, whatever needed to be done. I did that for that summer, and then I got a job as a laborer for a concrete company. I had to, you know, get all the tools out and haul all the forms over there. I couldn't set the forms. I wasn't allowed to do that or whatever. Just various things that a laborer has to do on a concrete crew. And I had gotten $4 an hour now, and man, you talk about big money. This is 1973. And I'm making big money. In the meanwhile, I had sold that truck somehow, and I'm a believer in this stuff. We lived in this street, in this little subdivision, and a guy ended up in that subdivision and came down our street and saw that truck sitting in front of our house, and he used to own that truck. And he saw it and knocked on the door and asked me if I would sell it back to him. And I pay, and he's not the guy I bought it from.
Yeah.
The guy I bought it from had bought it from him. But he's the one that put the 283 in it and the 2-speed Power Glide. And he just begged me to sell him that truck back. And so I think I bought that truck for $300, which was a lot of money back then, and I sold it to him for $350, I think.
Made $50.
Made $50. But now I needed a car or something for transportation, and stepdad was really into cars, hot rods and stuff. And at one time he had a 56 Ford custom cab truck, a 57 Chevy hardtop, Bel Air hardtop, and a 68 Chevy Super Sport 396. They were amazing cars, unbelievably fast. And I told him, I said, if you ever have to sell one of those, I sure hope you would talk to me first, you know, or whatever. And I got that phone call that summer when I was 17 and just graduated. I got that phone call, and he said, I'm going to sell the 57, which was the one I really wanted. And he had just got through overhauling the engine, fresh overhaul. And I asked how much. $800. That car today would be a $50,000 car all day long. It was in immaculate condition. It had original high-end, because it was a hardtop Bel Air, it had the original black and red and gold thread interior, red dash, and it was a white car. It had Corvette Rally Sport wheels. It had an unbelievable 327 engine in it, Borg Warner T10 4-speed transmission. I really didn't have any business having that car. It was a car that you wouldn't have to put your foot on the brakes to try to smoke the tires. Just dump the clutch and floor it, and it would just sit there and just boil the tires. It was unbelievably fast. Anyway, I didn't have any money. My parents, my dad and stepmother, I'd actually moved out of the house. I graduated in May and I left in June, 17 years old, so I went to my aunt and uncle, and they co-signed for me for an $800 loan at Dial Finance. And I jumped on a Greyhound bus with my 8-track stereo and some speakers, and I took the bus to Ojai, California, and spent a day or two installing my stereo under the dash so it wouldn't mess up the dash, and the speakers underneath the seat, and put the speaker wires under the carpet and all that. And then Sunday morning I left at about 5 o'clock in the morning from Ojai, California, and gave him the $800 cash and drove my 57 home, and I was in Mesa at 1 o'clock that afternoon. I think I left I think it was 5:30 when I left, so the speedometer didn't work on that either. But it was a fast car. Anyway.
So,
Working in construction, driving my 57 Chevy.